this week. I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. And I want to talk today about procrastination. So I'll see if anyone joins. If anybody does want coaching, feel free to raise your hand or let me know in the chat. But if not, what I wanted to do today is talk about procrastination. I know this month is about time management. And I think that time management can be something that is really difficult for people to warm up to, specifically because it's painful. It's not a lot of fun. There's the part of our brain that's always looking to be spontaneous, the part of our brain that is always wanting to save time, find a shortcut, minimize any sort of pain and maximize pleasure. And planning ahead what we do with our time eliminates a lot of that. And so procrastination is something that I see with a lot of people that I talk to, and they might think that thinking about things or doing things for themselves is maybe selfish or something they shouldn't do. And so they may have these dreams in their mind, like starting a business, writing a book, starting a podcast, blog, starting to draw, anything they want to do that's maybe a dream of theirs. They'll figure out like a way to put it off, and they'll feel like maybe selfish is a good reason, or I have too many other things that are more important that I need to do. And so I want to talk about how by procrastinating, we can actually basically never get the things done that we dream about in our lives. And so, I think that we need to pay more attention to the things that we really want to do in our dreams, because I think it's the way ultimately that we can become the next version of ourselves. We can put more value into the world, which the world needs. 100%. We think about the people who have taken risks, written the books, created the movies that we love, who have started businesses, invented things, the innovators. Those people all could have procrastinated and just said, you know what, someone out there is probably doing this better than me. And if no one had ever taken a risk on themselves, we wouldn't have certain things. We'd have no iPhones, we'd have no airplanes, it would just be kind of like, oh, no, that doesn't exist yet. So that's probably not a good thing to do. So I think it's really important to take some looks at procrastination and figure out if it's actually adding any value to your life or not. So one of the things that I do with the people that I work with is I typically want them to just go get it. And this could be terrifying for some people. But if somebody really wants something, maybe they really want to lose weight, or they really want to switch careers or do something, then I think that they should do it. And they should think about it, but start to do it, because there's always going to be that part of your brain that's saying now is not a good time. And I think that there's always going to be the piece of us that's maybe depending on other people to make us do it. And a lot of times that's where people can get in trouble if they're maybe going from being maybe in high school or college, where people are telling them what to do. They have deadlines, they have coaches that make them show up for practice. But then when they go to decide they want to run a marathon, they can never really do it. So there's no one saying hey, show up at this time. And the same can happen with work. If they don't put deadlines on themselves or do things like we talked about with the calendars. I have a podcast that I put out once a week. And for a while I was a once a week blogger. And I remember a lot of times my brain would just say no one's even listening. No one really cares. This, you should go do something else. You should just, put this away for a while. But instead I kind of got pretty good at being uncomfortable and trying to be my own boss in my head, my own manager, my own coach, saying okay, well, if you decide you're not going to exercise, even though right now on the calendar it says this is the time that we're going to exercise, it's not going to get done. And so you have to kind of get used to being, and even if it's the calendar as your new boss, that's fine. If it says it's exercise time and you can physically do it, and there's no other thing except for, the fact that you just really don't want to, and you get it done, you're going to be amazed with how much you accomplish, because it's going to stack up. And so I put meetings on my calendar for when I need to record a podcast, do coaching calls. And even if the time comes and I I think of a million other things that I should be doing, or I think no one cares, no one's listening. I still show up because it's on my calendar and I do it. And so I always feel good afterwards because I tend to, get a lot more done that I feel like is valuable work than most people. So you have to be okay with feeling discomfort and feeling a little bit, feeling like you're going to have that inner critic in your head and you just can't listen to her all the time. So one of the things that procrastination does, and when I mentioned that triad, that avoiding pain, seeking pleasure, and finding shortcuts, I think procrastination helps us because we've gotten used to the idea of being perfectionists. And so what this means is in our brains, we don't want to do work that's not A+ work. And so if we have, a blog we want to write or a social media post that we know we want to do for our business, we might procrastinate and think that we're doing something useful by being like, well, my makeup doesn't look right today. I'm not going to go live because it's not perfect. And that is just really our brain kind of tricking us into feeling like B- work is just not as good as A+ work. But the A+ work never happens. If we're always in that loop where we don't just say, every Tuesday, I'm going to go live and talk about how business is going or what my new offer is. Or if you're in a corporate job and you say like, yes, like I do all the things I want to do, but there's a part of me that really still wants to exercise before I go to work. Put that time and then do it. Treat it like it's something that's really important, or else everything else is going to take precedence. And you might say like, well, I only have time for a 10-minute walk today. That's not good enough. So I'm just not going to do anything. And that's just not true, because all of the effort that we can do, if we can figure out a way to do something, even if it's B-, C- work, it is so much better than doing nothing. That is just opting out and deciding to fail in advance. And I think that's what our brain is always going to want to do. It's always just going to want to take the easy way out. So, I think that sometimes we can try to delay things for a while. And then there's a lot of times where people feel like when I'm under pressure, I get great work done. And so what we'll do is give ourselves an excuse to, maybe we have a month to do something, or we won't do anything until week 3. And then all of a sudden we have no time for that A+ perfectionist work. You just have to get something done. And so it feels like, okay, well, I did it. It wasn't perfect, but I did it last minute and it was rushed. And it gives us this like justification for why something might not come out A+. And so that helps our brain feel, I just admitted someone else, to feel quite a bit better, because we're actually like doing something, but it's quick and it's fast. We had to get it done. And so when there's no accountability and there's nobody demanding that certain things get done, it's going to be really easy to just not do it. So for example, like if you have a month to do a project at work, you're going to get it done. Most likely you're going to get it done, but you might do it, in week 3, then it's okay, but it's out the door. If you don't have anybody telling you when to do something or any sort of deadline at all, you might not ever do anything. And I think that can be, really tricky if no one's paying attention. So you kind of have to become your own boss. And I think once you do, it can really start helping you get work out. And then there's one, Dan Sullivan, who's another coach. He says that if you focus on getting 80% of any project done as fast as possible, that this could totally change how much you're able to produce. And so if you have that project that's due in a month and you do 80% of it in the first week and a half, then you actually have that opportunity to make it better because there's already something that exists. So it's almost like having a draft of something. And if you have a draft and you give yourself a month to do something and you start it in the last week, then that draft is going out. It's fine. But if you do something early and you get it done, like if I finish a podcast, have it all done early, and then have a couple weeks where it's like, well, maybe I could create this to promote it, or maybe I could edit in something here that I think would be valuable, or re-record the intro because there's something I thought of that would make it better. If you give yourself that gift of that extra time, then you actually could start putting out a work. And so I think that that could be something that's a really useful thing to do, especially if you're just trying to start a new project or a new initiative that might require a lot of effort or energy. I think that that could be good. And so one of the things that's a little bit counterintuitive about this is thinking that the faster you work, the more, effort it's going to take. And it's actually not true. It could take, if you want to work fast or work as fast as possible, you don't really have that ability to try to make it perfect. And so you just have to get the work done. And I've written a lot of blogs that I didn't think were great, but if I decided that I was writing one once a week and I had to get it done, then I had to get it done. Now, could I go back and edit them now? Sure, I could do that if I want to. Most of the time I don't. But I think that you don't have the luxury to make things perfect if you give yourself deadlines that maybe are shorter than you actually need. And it also takes away a lot of the stress. And you can think about it this way. Like if you have to get somewhere at 4:00 today, and it takes you 10 minutes to get there, and you leave at 3:50, you're going to feel stress because you have a deadline, you've got to get somewhere. And, if anything goes wrong, it's just going to be incomplete, or it's just not going to work out. Maybe it'll be closed or something like that. Now, if you give yourself a little extra time, you can actually get there early, hang out. You could get there a little bit early, or you could stop for gas if you're about to run out of gas, or you could be stuck in traffic for a little bit, but you're still going to remain calm because you actually gave yourself a little bit of extra time. So that's one of the tricks that I think is really helpful for procrastination. If you do feel like you can't, you always want to put things off, you always want to wait until the last minute to get things done. If you do try to just bust out something as fast as possible, and then give yourself a little bit of time to either be fine with it and be done with it, and then your brain you can actually relax, you can actually enjoy yourself, you can actually maybe go on vacation if you're trying to and this is one of the things that we do. We tend to be really, really efficient the week before a vacation. We'll get all those things done. There's no time for bullshit. There's no time for procrastination. Like the work has to get done, and then we get it out. And that's because we've put that time limit on ourselves, and that calendar where like, okay, now I'm gone. And if I really want to enjoy myself or not take my laptop or not think about work, I got to get things out the door. And you could create that vacation motivation whenever you want to, because it's no different. It's really not any different than, the things that you have to do, or wanting to go exercise, or wanting to check something out, or read a book or something like that. If you put that in the back of your mind that like, I just need to get this done, it can really happen. And so that's where I think the calendar can be really helpful. I think it's great to start being okay with, less than perfect work, because it's probably not going to end up being perfect anyway. And it's much better to show up, do the things that you want to do, instead of putting them off and maybe never ever getting around to them. So thank you guys so much for listening today. I don't know if anybody has any questions or needs some coaching. If you do, feel free to raise your hand or put a comment in the chat. I'll check there now. All right, cool. And if not, I hope you have an amazing week. And I hope you do get a chance to check out this week's workbook and the course, because I do think it's really helpful. And hopefully you're able to do a little bit of the time management techniques that we spoke about. So have a great week, and we'll talk again soon.